It's 9 o'clock. The polls have just closed. Thanks for watching our special election night coverage. I'm Jessie, coming to you from Newsday Studios in Melville. Now, since the polls have just closed, we're still waiting on numbers, but we do want to give you a look at some of the hottest races in this election. The first, the battle for Nassau County Executive. Incumbent Democrat Laura Curran is looking to fend off a challenge from Hempstead Town Councilman Bruce Blakeman. Next up, Nassau District Attorney. Democrat State Senator Todd Kaminsky is battling Republican Ann Donnelly for the office vacated by Madeline Senges. The Suffolk DA's office is also up for grabs. Incumbent Democrat Tim Sini is facing off against Ray Tierney, who is running on the Republican line. Long Islanders who work in the city may be watching this race closely. Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa vying to be the next mayor of the Big Apple. And when we say this is truly a local election year, we mean it. Here's a look at the other offices up for grabs: Suffolk Sheriff, Nassau Comptroller, Nassau County Clerk, Glen Cove Mayor, as well as judges in both counties. Voters also deciding on town supervisors across the island, town council seats, town clerks, town assessors, and in many towns, voters are choosing the superintendents of highways. The balance of power in both county legislatures is also at stake this election. Right now in Suffolk County, Democrats hold a 10-8 majority over Republicans. The county executive, Steve Ballone, is a Democrat. In Nassau, it's the opposite. Republicans hold an edge in the legislature, 11-8. If voters tip the scales in the opposite direction in either county, it could mean big changes. And we have reporters at both party headquarters in Nassau County. Newsday's Cecilia Dowd will be with Democrats in New Hyde Park, and Marissa Sarback will be with Republicans in Baldwin. Let's start things off with Cecilia Dowd watching the current race in New Hyde Park. We'll see her now. Cecilia, how's it looking there?
Well, the room just really started to fill up here. We're again with the Democrats here at New Hyde Park, and with me is the state Democratic chairman, Jay Jacobs, also the Democratic chair for Nassau County. So the big question is, the polls have closed. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling that we're going to be having a very tight night tonight. It's not a runaway by any means on either side, but we're going to watch these results, and I'm cautiously optimistic. I know that I'm comfortable. I think that Laura Curran is going to win a good victory here tonight as our county executive. She's deserving it, and I'm glad that she's looking pretty good. Down ballot, we got to see. We have to see. We've got a lot of paper out also that has to be counted, and that's going to take a few days.
Can you talk about the voter turnout today?
Yeah, well, Republican turnout was very strong today. We had the advantage on early voting and, of course, on paper, the absentee ballots. But Republicans came out in full force today. Democratic turnout was a little disappointing. I think that there's about a 12,000 vote margin when all is said and done, somewhere in that neighborhood, Republicans over Democrats. So, you know, that's a little concerning here, and I'm seeing it elsewhere in the state as well. So, you know, we have to watch that trend.
Now, in the race for county executive, residents constantly talk about this assessment rollout. Do you think that is a concern for this race?
Well, you know, of course, assessment was the biggest issue in Laura Curran's administration. She did what had to get done. The assessment system was completely out of whack, costing the county literally tens of millions of dollars, cumulatively hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. Tax certiorari challenges to people's assessments. It was just a complete mess. So she fixed it, but that meant that the Republicans were able to argue that she raised taxes, which wasn't true. Changing your assessment doesn't raise your taxes.
Now, with the district attorney's race, it's Todd Kaminsky, state senator. He's a former federal prosecutor. Everybody brings up bail reform. Are you concerned that that is going to impact the outcome of this race, and did it bring Republicans out?
Yeah, well, everybody didn't bring up bail reform. The Republicans brought up bail reform, and what they tried to do was paint Todd Kaminsky as the guy that was responsible for it.
But residents do bring it up, too.
Yeah, well, they do because they hear of it from the Republicans, who gave a lot of misinformation about it. Not only did they give misinformation about what Todd Kaminsky's role in it was, but what it really amounted to at the end of the day. Bail reform is something that was necessary here in New York State. In the beginning, it wasn't done completely correctly, and it was Todd Kaminsky that helped get it fixed. But the Republicans didn't tell the voters that, and frankly, many of them may have believed the Republicans' misinformation.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. I mean, we should hopefully know these answers soon. We'll see. Reporting live from New Hyde Park, Cecilia Dowd for Newsday.
Thank you so much, for Cecilia. We'll be checking in with you throughout the night. Now let's head to Marissa Sarback with the Blakeman camp in Baldwin. Marissa, how's it looking out there?
Well, Faith, certainly people have started to show up. We have been pretty busy, and I would just say it's come in about the last half an hour. That's when we've seen people filing in. I want to get right to Ann Donnelly. She is joining us now, running for Nassau District Attorney. First of all, how are you feeling about today? We have seen Republicans really turning out in record numbers.
Yeah, I feel really good about today. You know, the Republicans certainly have come out to vote, and all the voters that I spoke to, that I met, were talking about safety, bail reform, just the important issues to me.
And where have you gone today? What polling locations? Who have you seen? What have you been doing?
Well, I went to vote at my own polling location. I actually saw some people there. And then I was in different areas in Oceanside and Great Neck and Franklin. It was just kind of a good feeling, you know. Everybody seemed to be talking about it. Everybody wants their voice to be heard.
And I know you've spent 32 years as a county prosecutor in Nassau County. You've worked first under Dennis Dillon, Kathleen Rice, Madeline Singas. You have really spent time under Republicans and Democrats. Why do you think your experience makes you the right candidate for the job?
Because I know the office. I know our strengths. I know our weaknesses. I know where we can improve. I know the things that we need to keep the same and maybe grow a little bit bigger. I know the people that work there. I know how we work there. So there's no training wheels. When I start in January, it's going to be full speed ahead.
Bail reform has become a hot topic during this election. You know, Todd Kaminsky has commented on this. What would you say at this point in terms of bail reform and where you stand on it?
Well, you know what? It is a hot issue, and I certainly hope that the legislators in Albany get the message that we need to do something to make it better. This throwing out the baby with the bathwater doesn't work, so let's come up with something that does work.
And so many people we've been seeing filing into GOP headquarters here in Baldwin this evening. It's really just started to get busy. What do you feel like the vibe is right now at this area, at this headquarters?
I think it's a good vibe. I think everybody's feeling good. You know, everyone's feeling good about who came out to vote and why they were coming out to vote.
Any last messages to voters that still have some time?
Well, if you haven't gotten there yet, please hurry and get there. But thank you. You know, thank you for having the faith and really thinking about it and coming out to vote.
All right, Ann Donnelly, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. All right, Faith, we're going to be checking in with you as we check around GOP headquarters, see who else we can talk to. But for now, we're reporting in Baldwin. Marissa Sarback for Newsday.
Thank you so much, Marissa. We'll be talking to you a little later on. Now, Newsday's team of political editors and reporters are keeping tabs on all of the races. One of them, you might know her name, it's Joy Brown. She's joining us from Studio 2 to put in perspective the importance of this election and what's going on. Joy, how you doing? Let's start out with voter turnout and what you're seeing so far.
Well, the voter turnout seems to be the big thing right now. Talking to people in Nassau, the Republican Party has really put the pedal to the metal in terms of getting its voters out. Joe Cairo, longtime Republican leader in Nassau County, he's a field marshal. He knows how to get those troops out. And as Jay Jacobs noted himself, he's the Democratic Party leader, the Republicans have come out in force. And while Jacobs says that he's confident about Laura Curran at the top of the ticket, he acknowledges that there may be concern for the bottom of the ticket. The lower part of that ticket would include the district attorney's office, and we just heard from Ann Donnelly, and also the Nassau County legislature. The Republicans' dream, just like the Democrats' dream when they were in trouble, would be to have something called a veto-proof majority on the legislature, which would really put them in command of a lot of the policies that go on in Nassau County. I also talked to Suffolk County, and I talked to Jessie Garcia. He is the Republican party chairman in Suffolk County, and he too is very happy about the Republican turnout in Suffolk County. There's a district attorney's race out there. You also have a couple of towns. Huntington, for example, that's an open seat. In addition to that, you have the Suffolk County legislature, where you have you have at least one open seat. And they are all, Republicans are feeling very, very good and very, very confident right now. Of course, we don't know the voting results now. And we also have those absentee ballots to contend with. But as of right now, Republicans are very, very happy.
All right, and Joy, during the Newsday town hall you hosted, you spoke with a few of the candidates. One of the biggest topics for some of the candidates was cracking down on gangs. Let's listen to what they had to say.
There weren't any MS-13 murders in Suffolk County in the last couple of years. And one of the reasons there weren't any murders is because we stopped them from happening because we intercepted the planning of violence over the wiretap.
I don't self-style myself as the man who took down MS-13. What I do self-style myself as a prosecutor who worked in court and prosecuted over 50 MS-13 victims. That means in court I vindicated the rights of over 50 individuals who were murdered at the hands of MS-13. I worked with a team of investigators, and we did that, and we brought very substantial MS-13 indictments.
And Joy, both of the candidates say they have the background to get the job done. There's only one spot. What's your take on this?
Well, you got to remember, both of them are trying to be the MS-13 killer. And both of them can say something about MS-13. Tim Cindy on the state level, he did handle cases involving MS-13. And Ray Tierney, I've actually seen him in federal court handling cases involving MS-13. People in Suffolk, of course, will remember that we had a spate of killings of young men and young women were also injured by MS-13. And, you know, that seems to have come under control right now. But the question for voters is, who do they believe did it the best, and who do they believe can continue to do the best with law and order in Suffolk County?
Right. Now, Joy, let's shift our focus to the Nassau DA race, Todd Kaminsky and Ann Donnelly. What's your take on these candidates?
Well, here we go again. This is bail reform, bail reform, bail reform. Somebody said to me, you know, it's interesting. The Republicans aren't running against they're not running against a candidate. They're running against bail reform, and there's some truth in that. I think that the Republicans have been very, very successful in getting out their problems with bail reform, and I think that the Democratic candidate has been less successful in sort of helping people understand what bail reform was supposed to be, what the problems were with it, and, you know, what is it going to take to fix it.
Absolutely. Joy, one more race we want you to talk about is the big race in Nassau for county executive. What do you think about these candidates? Well,
you got two veterans there. Laura Curran is running on her record. Bruce Blakeman was actually there as the first presiding officer of a brand new legislature back in the 1990s. So they both know the county. They both know policy. What the difference is here is, as Jay Jacobs once again brought up, is assessment, right? The assessment determines what portion of taxes you pay to your school district, to the town, to the village, and anytime you mess with assessment, and this has been true, by the way, since the 1990s, people get really, really angry and upset, especially if a change in your assessment translates into your bearing a bigger tax burden. And the Republicans went out on that, as they do. Taxes is always a very big thing with Nassau County Republicans. They went out on that very, very hard. And Laura Curran, she defends her change in the assessment system. She's saying, I'm trying to fix it. She says, I'm trying to make it fairer, and I'm also trying to fix the system so that people don't grieve their taxes and say my taxes are wrong and then win, and then the county has to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's been one of the biggest holes in the Nassau County budget. And again, that's been since the 1990s.
And that's certainly been a big talking point on the campaign. Joy, thank you so much. We will be talking with you through the rest of the night. Go take a break.
Thanks. See you later.
There are several propositions that will be on the back of the ballot this year. They're calling for amendments to the state constitution. Proposition 1 would amend the state constitution to change the process of drawing and approving congressional and state legislative districts. It would also freeze the number of state senators at 63. If approved, Proposition 2 would make it a constitutionally protected right for all New Yorkers to have clean air and water. Proposition 3 aims to scrap the requirement for people to be registered 10 days ahead of an election if they want to cast their ballots. And Proposition 4 would change the rules so a voter could cast an absentee ballot without having to prove they couldn't show up at their polling place on Election Day. And thank you so much for watching Newsday TV's special election night coverage. We'll be bringing you live updates throughout the night. And Newsday.com's voter guide will now be flipping over to a results page where you can find up-to-the-minute results on each and every race. I'm Faith Jessie. We'll see you later.